Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the ever-expanding and infinite multiverse of fandom, which, to be honest, is probably a pretty great name at this point. It's not to pat ourselves on the back.
Not to toot our own horns, but...
Yeah, we were ahead of this multiverse thing before everybody else.
We want our credit.
We're also ahead of the curve on the Andrew Garfield thing, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
I'm Rob. I'm here as always with Courtney. Courtney, it feels like, I don't know if you felt this, but it felt like we haven't done this in like a month.
Yeah.
Even though it's only been a week.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the post-Spider-Man No Way Home depression era.
I feel like we haven't done this in like months, but it's like, I look up, I'm like, it's only been a week.
Yeah, I mean, it's raining outside. It's a dreary day.
There's a pandemic still.
Yeah. Flaring up again.
But we got some news. Well, we don't have news. It's more like trailers.
Yeah.
This is like trailer week.
Yeah, it is.
Honestly. We got a little bit of news, but mostly trailers, and then our big topic is going to be a season review of Hawkeye. It's not going to be a Matrix episode. We're waiting for that for next week.
Because you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet, and then you saw it, and you were less than impressed.
We'll elaborate next week. I had to levity that with watching the original Matrix, and boy, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, so next week we'll talk The Matrix. This week is going to be about Hawkeye. But first, trailers in abundance. Well, not really. These are kind of trailers that we've seen, over the last couple weeks, but we're just going to condense them and talk about them now. But first, The Batman, another trailer.
The Bat and the Cat.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, everything from this movie that we've seen so far has been pretty stellar.
Yeah, I think I was telling you, I feel like I've never seen anything like this. It's just super clear. I mean, Greg Fraser shot this film. He's a cinematographer, and he did Dune. He did Rogue One. I mean, he's got an impressive track record. And I mean, just some of the shots that they're pulling off for a comic book movie, it feels surreal at this point. It's just amazing. The attention to detail, really just making a film is, I think, the best approach to it. Having that be your first priority over, fan service or big action set pieces, which this has, but it's more of kind of a contained and much more thought out, and just really, it feels so much more grounded. Can't wait to see Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. Yeah,
I agree. Like I said, everything that we've seen from this movie so far has been pretty spectacular and very, how do I say this? Sharp. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like there's very much wasted action or very much wasted space throughout any of the trailers that we've seen. Everything feels important. Everything, you can tell why everything's there. You know what I mean? Where like a lot of trailers and then, in respect to a lot of movies, you're like, well, why is this and why is this here? Why is that here?
Got my thoughts on Hawkeye about that very thing.
But these Batman trailers, like, there's a purpose to everything that you're seeing on the screen, which is what a good movie should do.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing about this is it feels like Frank Miller, his era on Batman. This is what this really feels like. You kind of get that Year One vibe, the Earth One vibe from it. You really get this really grounded and just this kind of disgusting version of Gotham that you really are kind of yearning for as like one of the biggest eras of Batman coming from him. So Robert Pattinson's going to do great. I mean, let's talk about Zoe Kravitz for a little bit as Catwoman. I think that's an amazing piece of casting. And then going even further, Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon on top of that too. I mean, the casting is just on point. I know people have their reservations of Alfred, but if you want a little bit, of solace to that, go and read the Earth One comic because he looks a lot like the Earth One version of Alfred, where he looks a little bit younger and he looks like a military man versus just a straight up butler. He looks like somebody that's been trained in some stuff.
Also, Andy Serkis is great.
Yes, he's amazing. Yeah, he's a great actor. That's one of Matt Reeves's go-to act. I mean, he played probably his most recognizable films. He played the main character, so.
Yeah. A lot of exciting stuff, honestly, from DC coming within the next year.
Yeah.
I would say probably Batman and Black Adam are probably the top two ones.
Yeah, Batgirl's also coming out next year, I believe. And I'm honestly pretty excited to see what they're going to do with that because it is going to be an extension of Ben Affleck's Batman, I guess, and we're going to get more J.K. Simmons, too. So I definitely want to see where it goes. I know
Blue Beetle got promoted to being a theater release.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that going forward. But I am really excited to see what Zola Maridueña does with that from Cobra Kai fame. I really like like him as an actor. It's funny, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit from all these trailers because we got Cobra Kai coming out this Friday. He really kind of evolved. I loved his evolution as an actor because he felt so young in season 1 on that, like, on the YouTube platform. It was the first show they did, like, to evolve into what he's doing now. Just a really likable guy that I think he's going to crush it as Blue Beetle, and hopefully they don't just throw him away. Hopefully they kind of expand upon some of those other characters.
Yeah. And then, speaking of more what DC's doing, inexplicably, 2 characters from Man of Steel are returning to be in the Flash movie.
Yeah. Michael Shannon is coming back as General Zod, and I've already spoken my praises of Man of Steel. I think it's one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I understand the criticisms. I just don't care. I love that movie, and that's one thing I'll give it. I think General Zod's one of the better villains from the DCEU. He's understandable in what he's trying to do. He's vicious. He's the perfect adversary for Kal in the first movie. So he's back, man. They're doing the Willem Dafoe thing again.
But
is it earned? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's a Flash movie, isn't it?
It is a Flash movie. I think this is the issue. It's a Flash movie, but it feels like it's getting lost that this is a Flash movie.
This movie is quickly becoming, I feel like, their answer to No Way Home.
Yeah.
In, like, the worst way. In the most DC way possible.
Yeah.
In the same way that Batman vs. Superman was, like, an answer to the Avengers, this is feeling more and more like an answer to Spider-Man with No Way Home.
Yeah.
And that could be a mistake.
Yeah. Because the one thing that Spider-Man No Way Home has to its advantage is legacy. But it's not a legacy of bringing Michael Keaton back from 89 and 93. It's not that. You're dealing with the building block characters for modern movies.
And those are all Spider-Man.
Yeah, they're all Spider-Man. This is a Flash movie. This is
with one Flash in it.
Yeah, there's 2. It's the same guy, but there's 2 Flashes. But
I do think Grant Gustin's going to end up being in this movie.
I can see that too, and I also think that the second Flash that's Ezra Miller is going to be the Reverse Flash. I think that's what the setup's going to be.
But also, there's too many Batmen in this Flash movie.
Yeah, how many Batmen are we getting? 2
Keaton
at least.
And Affleck are for sure in it.
Yeah.
Now Michael Shannon is in it. Does that mean we're going to get Henry Cavill?
I still think that Henry Cavill is going to make an appearance in here because he's been saying he wants to come back as Superman. See, DC, if you're to listen to us for 1 second, maybe
yes, DC, if you're listening to this podcast,
maybe pump the brakes for a little bit and let's just get a second Man of Steel movie with Henry Cavill. Maybe that's where you start, and maybe we get a definitive Batman, and we don't jump to Batman.
I just feel like for the longest time, not the longest time, but within like the last 2-3 years, like I thought DC found their lane.
Yeah, they did.
Like I thought they were like, we're kind of going to ditch the shared universe thing and we're just going to do tight solo movies.
Yeah, and possibly they could cross over at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like I thought that's where their lane was.
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple great ideas. Shazam, Birds of Prey, Aquaman, they were on
Wonder Woman,
they were on a solid path. And
Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I love Suicide Squad.
Probably one of the better movies of this year, to be honest.
Yeah, not just superhero movies of the year. I thought it was really well done.
So, like, what is happening? Like, why are we going back? Why are we going back to the 2012, 2013 days of we're trying to out Marvel? Yeah,
reactionary. Like you said, it feels extremely reactionary. I'm not in full trust mode with them for this now.
No, not at all.
It's still a cool concept for the movie. They're doing the Flashpoint thing, but listen, I'm not somebody that's going to be like, you need to do the exact source material, but now it just feels like as a story itself, we're going too off the rails of we're just going to go get these Batman for nostalgia's sake. That's not what Spider-Man No Way Home was. Nope. Spider-Man No Way Home it fit into the story of what it was. This just feels like, we're going to bring Keaton back because he was available and it would be cool to see him back. So we'll see how this pans out. I still have a small sliver of hope. But as Bane said, there's no hope without despair. There's no despair without hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, okay on it after I saw the little teaser trailer, and I'm like, all right, this looks pretty neat. Mm-hmm. The suit looks good. The Flash suit looks great. But now, like, all this other stuff, and I'm just like, I think you guys are getting the wrong lesson here.
Yeah. And speaking of wrong lessons and a little bit of skepticism, the Doctor Strange trailer showed after Spider-Man No Way Home, and
then got dropped official.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt not nearly as much as the Flash movie, but I'm starting to feel a little bit skeptical about this as well because of that same notion of, are we doing nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, or are we doing it for story? So yeah, so Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, it's coming. Wanda, she's here, and she's gonna be the main villain. I don't think that's an if-ander, but I think she's going to be the main villain. It's probably going to evolve from, it's going to be Strange Supreme that we saw in What If. So Strange Supreme from What If is come back, and he's going to run amok about the multiverse. Or, as I think what's probably going to happen, he's probably going to end up helping them. I don't think he's going to be the straight-up antagonist, because he wasn't even close to the antagonist in that final episode. He was actually the one that saved him in the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I
not.
thought
Yeah,
that too.
Strange Supreme isn't a bad person. He just. He's more finite and he has more finality in his intentions of, I can get this done. There's no hero, I save a cat out of a tree. It's, what am I going to do to either get Christine back or just get the job done? So Wanda, on the other hand, villain.
Yeah, we don't know where she's at.
Yeah.
She's probably, honestly, maybe the most compelling character in the MCU right now.
Yeah, she is. I can agree with that 100%. Maybe also Falcon, because he can't get a loan, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, no, I think Wanda's arc is incredibly interesting coming off the back of WandaVision. Like I always like kind of when they're the heroes or whoever, not even the heroes, the characters are operating in more of a gray area and more operating kind of in their own self-interest.
Yeah.
Which is where I think Wanda is right now. She's not really too concerned of what's going on in the greater universe or multiverse. She's more focused on herself and more focused on finding her kids.
Yeah, you know what I like about that kind of notion that you just said? There's no Avengers right now, so why should you need to be concerned about all these other things? There's no world saving. You already have your version of Captain America right now that can do that. You have Hawkeye still running around out there. You don't need to be a world saver right now. Maybe she just wants to have a family. Is that so much to ask for, in her opinion? I think that's where her whole arc is going to stem from, and you might see an extension. If you thought WandaVision her was bad, then this might just be the worst version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, but I know there's some people that like to contain people like that, and that's where I want to get into these cameos that are starting to get rumored here and there throughout this. So I'm hearing some crazy stuff. I'm hearing we're going to start getting these Fox characters back, and I know who you want to see from those Fox movies.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely where we're going to see some of that, because what they're not going to want to do is take too much attention away from what they're going to do in the future.
Yeah.
With these properties, as far as we're talking about the X-Men and the Fantastic Four here. So I don't think they're going to want to take too much shine off of what they're going to do in the future by relying on the past. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think we're going to get some of those characters in this movie, and this is kind of where the skepticism and the questioning comes in, because we, like with Spider-Man Went Home, we go back to that. That's the example, because that's the standard. Yeah. Because nothing else has really tried this. I mean, I guess you could count The Matrix, but I haven't seen it, and from all accounts, it's not great. So, Spider-Man No Way Home is the standard bearer for this type of thing. Right. So, my question with this, which is what it was with Spider-Man No Way Home before it came out, is how do these characters fit into the narrative of a Doctor Strange movie?
And I think Spider-Man No Way Home changed this movie. I think Spider-Man No Way Home, they started showing the press the movie, and immediately Marvel's like, we have a hit on our hands, throw all the cameos in the movie, because I think they probably cut some of that. I think the biggest one's probably going to be the big three from the Fox movies, which is Professor X, Magneto, and I think Hugh Jackman's going to come back as Wolverine. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, Hugh Jackman, I don't think would say... If Tobey Maguire could come back, I think that Hugh Jackman would come back.
I think he would too.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it, just because, again, the finality of Logan and how much I think that's one of the better movies that we've gotten over the last couple of years. And it's just, I understand that everything's done, but I mean, we got the same thing out of Spider-Man 3. Essentially, he was kind of done. He lost his best friend, and him and Mary Jane were making it work. So, but he still came back. So I can really see, I'm hearing the Illuminati is the thing that this is going to stem from, that there's going to be this multiversal version of the Illuminati, which in Marvel Comics is kind of like this, who is it? Professor X, Professor X, Black Panther, Namor, Doctor Strange, Iron Man. I'm missing somebody. Black Bolt. And it's just basically all like the team heads in the Marvel Universe, and they're the ones that make the tough decisions that nobody else can know about. So I've been hearing that's what's going to go on. It's just going to be a different version of that team, just, seeing Doctor Strange or Wanda making a mess, and they're going to be like, well, we need to clean this up.
I mean, I guess what they could do, pertains to Hugh Jackman in a way that doesn't cheapen Logan, is you bring him back as Wolverine, but give him the costume.
Yeah, and maybe make him a bit younger, and maybe not make him Old Man Logan.
If you put him in like the classic Wolverine costume, I feel like that's a good way to use him without dampening Logan.
Right.
Because he would look so different from how we've seen him, even presented in the X-Men films prior. Right. He was never in the costume.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was just in a tank top and jeans most of the time.
Right. And this is a big what if. This isn't confirmed. This is just a gigantic what if. This is much more ambiguous than, because in Spider-Man No Way Home, as soon as they showed the first trailer, you gotta know they're in the movie at that point. Mm-hmm. But something like this is my biggest concern. This is still a Doctor Strange movie. That's my biggest thing. This isn't an X-Men movie or a Fantastic or a Fox reunion tour. This is a Doctor Strange movie. Mm-hmm. So I understand Doctor Strange has so much to do with the multiverse, and I thought it was an amazing idea to have Scarlet Witch either be your main villain or just be, the buddy cop type of thing.
And also Loki's supposed to be in this.
Yeah, well, I'm also going to assume it's going to be Loki and Sylvia if they're going to do that. And I also think that Kang's going to be in this, because why would you not put Kang in there? Because he's the multiverse guy at this point.
He's a multiverse guy.
Yeah, and Doctor Strange, it feels like, is the new Iron Man of this next phase for Marvel, where it's, making sure that he's the nexus point. He's the person.
He's putting in a lot of overtime.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he shouldn't have been texting and driving. You see what happened? Now he's got to deal with all the multiversal crap. But yeah, it's really interesting. On a good note.
Also, Mordo's in this.
Yeah, Mordo's in this, and he's got dreads. They did the Empire thing that they did to Terrence Howard, where they gave him dreads. I don't know why, but.
So it's like, what's his deal?
He's the most clear-cut character in this movie, in my opinion. No more sorcerers. See what happens when there's sorcerers? The multiverse gets broken.
But, like, is he a bad guy?
No, he's the only one that's making sense.
Because at the end of the last Doctor Strange movie, it seemed like they were setting Mordo up to be the villain of Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, and then they were like, oh, Tobey Maguire, you'd want to come back for a movie? Why don't we just do the multiverse? Yeah.
So now Mordo, I feel like, just got, dropped the whole plateau.
Yeah. And it stinks because it's Chiwetel Ejiofor is such a good actor. That's why it kind of stinks. Like, again, same thing with Benedict Wong. And, I mean, this is my big thing. And same thing with Benedict Cumberbatch himself. Like, this is his movie. This isn't somebody else's. This isn't Wanda's movie. This is his movie. So I hope they don't cheapen that, because they really have a gem with Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. And I hope this isn't how this franchise kind of teeters off in fan service the movie.
Yeah, but then again, it goes back to trusting Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They haven't, shown us yet that they don't know how to handle something like this.
Especially in this multiversal saga, too. They haven't failed us yet, because Loki I think it's the best Disney Plus show, and Spider-Man No Way Home, is made $1 billion, so something's working.
Yeah, and even when you go back to even concepts like this, like when you talk about Infinity War, how are they going to balance all these main characters, all these A-list actors? And they did it. Mm-hmm. Not only did they do it, but they made it a movie about Thanos.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
the main character.
Everybody else was kind of on the side a little bit, mm-hmm. and kind of revolving around Thanos' story. And then you fast forward to Spider-Man No Way Home, where you're balancing all these former characters from other films, and then, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Sorry if you didn't already get that.
Yeah. But, they've shown so far that they know how to do stuff like this. And if they are going to deploy these other characters, you just have to trust that they're going to be able to do it, because nothing up to this point has shown me that they can't.
Yeah.
It's almost like you trust them until they prove you're wrong.
I agree. Let me get some rogue theories. Let me get some out. I want one practical theory and one just absolutely nuts theory for this movie.
I think I talked about my out there one last week where I think Chris Evans is going to come back as Johnny Storm.
Yeah. That'd be great. Chris Evans is turning into the cameo king. So spoilers for Don't Look Up. Funny enough, that was the movie. He's in Don't Look Up as in a cameo appearance. He was in Free Guy as a cameo appearance. So maybe he just does the same thing in this one. That would actually be kind of funny.
I told you last week, I pitched my scenario for how this would be perfectly done. Is they're traveling through the multiverse and they see Chris Evans in like civilian garb and they're like, oh, thank God. Like Steve Rogers is here. Like we're saved. Like help us, Steve Rogers. And he's like, who? And then he sees like a bunch of stuff and he flames on and flies off as Johnny Storm. I think that would be great.
No, that would be kind of funny. I would enjoy that. I definitely would enjoy that. So that's your safe theory, right?
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty out there.
Oh, that's your out there. What's your safe theory?
I think, again, I'm probably just going to go back to one that I kind of mentioned last week. I think Michael Fassbender is going to come back as Magneto.
I could buy it. I buy that 100%.
I think he would just work better with Elizabeth Olsen than Ian. No disrespect to the great Sir Ian McKellen. Yeah. I would never.
You're right. He was one of the classic comic book villains in movies.
Yeah. Played two of the most iconic fandom characters of all time. Gandalf and Magneto.
Humans and their guns.
Yeah, I would never disrespect Ian McKellen, but
Amazing.
Michael Fassbender is, in case, I feel like Michael Fassbender's been kind of off the grid for a little while, so I feel like...
This is what he was doing?
Well, I just feel like, it's kind of good for when people have been kind of off the grid for a while to come back in like a box office hit movie. To be like, man, this guy
can actually act. Yeah. It's like
it's kind of like the thing like Andrew Garfield's going through right now, where like he's in Spider-Man No Way Home, but he's had these other things coming out like recently. But now everyone saw how good he was in Spider-Man No Way Home. They're going back to these other things that they may not have heard about, and they're like, crap, like Andrew Garfield is great.
What's my shameless? So my shameless plug: Andrew Garfield movie is Under the Silver Lake. If you want just like a very trippy movie that is very. It's extremely fun, but it's very complicated, but it's just this adventure in the most unconventional way. Definitely check that out with Andrew Garfield. It came out in 2018, I believe. One of my favorite movies. It makes no sense, but makes all the sense if you think about it. It's so out there and so outlandish. I love it. But my very safe theory is Kang. I think Kang's gonna be in this movie, and it's gonna either he's the post-credit scene, and this officially starts this new phase for Marvel, this kind of Secret Wars / multiversal war that's gonna go on. I think this is what this will be, and Jonathan Majors is gonna show up as like the prime Kang, and then just as a prelude to Ant-Man Quantumania. My outlandish theory, I'm probably going to go with, I think we're going to get like a tried and true Illuminati. I think that's my outlandish one. We're going to get like this Illuminati version, and it is going to be James McAvoy's Professor X. We're going to see maybe a version of Baby Wolverine's there, and I think the big one is Toby's also going to come back again as Spider-Man for this one.
Reed Richards?
And we're going to get the Reed Richards from the older X-Men movies. Who played Reed Richards in those?
Ewan Griffin.
Yes. We're going to get him back. It's just going to be all these old Fox X-Men characters. You think Blade would come back? You think that
Wesley
Snipes would come back?
I think he's going to be in Blade.
I think also he's going to be in Blade. I think so too. I think that would be a genius piece of casting if they were to put him in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they're going to use Blade. I think Deadpool might show up in this.
Me too. Yeah, I thought the same thing earlier too. I think that would be a good place to start him, because you don't want to lose somebody like Ryan Reynolds when you have him like that. So this would be a great place, even if it's a second and just a funny joke. They're just because I think there's probably going to be a sequence in this movie where it's a montage of them just running through the multiverse, and that's probably where that theory of Chris Evans being Johnny Storm instead of Steve Rogers is going to come to fruition. But yeah, I can definitely see them having a little fun. But I think, like I said, this is going to be the start of. I think this is the start of Secret Wars. This movie is the cracking of the multiverse to get Secret Wars the path, because another crazy theory that I would have is because of how big the Secret Wars comic was, like, because that was the last event before like the all different Marvel. I could definitely see them being like, the multiverse is now collapsing because of what Doctor Strange did in this movie, or what happened. Maybe not him specifically of what happened. So now it's going to be like all the Earths are starting to converge on each other. And then I don't know how many years, 10, 15 years down the line, that's when we get to Secret Wars.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. You got to remember the timeline, right? For how we got from, basically we got from Iron Man to Infinity War. is what you're looking at.
Right.
Like a similar time frame.
10 years.
Yeah. So you're not looking at like the end game of this until like probably
2030.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to say it like that, but that's it. It's
that's the MCU wasn't quite as mainstream in 2008 as it was now. You go back to Iron Man 1 in 2008, you thought the end game for everything was just going to be the Avengers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everyone back then, and even that was 4 years, you know what I mean? To get from Iron Man to the first Avengers movie was 4 years, 2008 to 2012. Mm-hmm. And then when that movie ended, they showed Thanos in the end. They were like,
what?
Whoa.
Yeah. And then he wasn't even the villain of the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just kept adding different characters and different teams.
So that's what you have to remember is that we're doing that again.
Yeah.
Once Endgame ended, this whole thing started back up again.
Right. And we also have two different kind of places that we're going off of. We're talking about all this multiversal stuff, but there's also all the Earth stuff because I think
segues are great.
Right. There's all this Earth stuff that's going on. We also have, who are the Avengers right? There's no Avengers right now, so I think that's another thing. Are we going to get a young Avengers? Are we going to get a dark Avengers? I think that's the whole point of like, it's the Guardians versus the Avengers thing that was in the last phase. Like, we have all this multiversal stuff, these different versions of people that are making these teams, and then we also have who's protecting the Earth right now, because there is nobody right now. It feels like it's just Sam Wilson right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to see where that goes. But speaking of that street level, there's a show that just came out that just finished.
Yeah, it was Marvel's last entry until May, until Doctor Strange comes out. So.
Thanks a lot, Batman.
But yeah, it's also a Disney thing because now like Book of Boba Fett is starting.
Right.
So like now they're gonna give like the next kind of 4 or 5 months to Star Wars.
Right.
So
much needed. So right before we jump into Hawkeye, Boba Fett's coming out tomorrow. Can't wait. It's gonna be an extension of The Mandalorian. That's what did you say? It was just The Godfather in space?
Godfather, but Boba Fett?
Yeah.
I think it'll be good.
Oh yeah, great fun. I think Tony Morissette's gonna have just amazing fun in Ming-Na Wen. It's probably gonna have bigger implications because it's gonna be, what did they say, 6 episodes? It's not a long season, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, week by week, just more Star Wars content with this new Dave Filoni-verse and Jon Favreau. We need more of that, I think. And like I said, I hope we get a just detached Jedi, and it's just a young Jedi that's kind of like Cal Kestis without the baggage of Order 66. I hope we get that from them. Because I know we're getting Ahsoka, but again, a lot of baggage. Boba Fett, a lot of baggage.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, a
lot of baggage. I hope
the most baggage?
Yeah, it's the most baggage, yeah. But hopefully we get a new show with them in Filoni and Jon Favreau. We trust for this new era of Star Wars. So
agreed.
Yeah, Cobra Kai too, coming back Friday.
Yeah,
great fun.
One of the kind of best streaming success stories ever.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And again, the big thing about, I guess the last month and a half of this podcast has all been, and the next week is also going to be about legacy. That's really what it's about. And Cobra Kai is another example on how you do it well, just like Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a lesson in perspective too, because that was my favorite part about Cobra Kai. It was, Danny's not just the hero of this story. Life's not that simple that he's just the good guy and Johnny's the bad guy. And I love now in season 4 that they're gonna kind of be teaming up together. It's just it's really interesting to see, and it's fun to get that 80s nostalgia in these movies that we grew up on, and just seeing them just old and withered. And again, I love Danny's wife in this show because just like Mordo, she's the most logical one. She's just like, why are you guys fighting in karate style in Southern California? What is the point of all this? None of this matters.
Yeah, I love Cobra Kai. But Hawkeye came to Disney Plus 6 weeks ago and just wrapped up. Yeah. So we're going to kind of recap the whole season and what we liked, what we didn't like. And let's start not with Hawkeye, because he's too easy. Let's start with the newest entry into the MCU. Took the world by absolute storm.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, Haley Steinfeld is Kate Bishop. I mean, the first week of that happening is just every post I felt like I saw was her. It was just everything was Haley Steinfeld. I mean, she just exudes charisma. It just oozes from her. Like, she can't turn it off. And same thing again for another character that gets revealed later in the show. Same thing with her, but for Haley, it's so natural, and you can feel this trust that Marvel has in her too, where she will be Hawkeye at some point, and it's just gonna, we're gonna get that buddy cop thing with the character that we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But yeah, she's great. I mean, she really carries the show with just
I agree.
that youthful exuberance too. She carries it. So that's just a genius stroke of casting, and I can't wait to see more of her. I love her inexperience too. That's something that I think is really refreshing, of somebody not coming onto the scene and being like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Just like, I mean, Doctor Strange is another one. Like, he was immediately a contender for Sorcerer Supreme. I know it was the whole thing of like, he was destined to do it, but she really is. She's a good fight. She has all the bases of being a good fighter, but you can't just fight an Avenger and win. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that simple. So I thought that was really refreshing.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff that they do with that character. She's great as a kind of point of view character, kind of this outside looking into like the world of the Avengers.
Yeah, that was my favorite part about the show, is perspective, which I'm going to get into, but go ahead.
No, yeah, I just think it's great to get that point of view finally from a character on these Disney Plus shows who's a main character who isn't an Avenger already or isn't like Avenger adjacent. Like, all these Disney Plus shows so far, we had Wanda and Vision, we had Loki, we had Sam and Bucky. You know what I mean? So it's good to have, and we have Clint in this, who's obviously the Hawkeye and Hawkeye. But we have Kate, who is trying to crack that brotherhood. You know what I mean? She wants to be an Avenger so badly. And it's cool because what this show also does is it shows that there's levels to this game.
Yeah, right.
But like, there's a reason why. This show does a good job of justifying why Hawkeye's an Avenger.
Yeah, like somebody like Natasha Romanoff's an Avenger and Clint Barton, because I know there's a throwaway line in Age of Ultron where it's target the weak ones. Like, they're only weak. They're not really weak because you think they're weak when they're fighting along, you know, Iron Man and Hulk and Thor, but they're not weak when they're with normal civilians.
Fighting the mafia.
Yeah, they will tear everybody down. So I think that's really good. And like I said, my favorite part about this show and the biggest compliment, it's perspective, and that's just a testament to Marvel itself. We're so deep into this Marvel Cinematic Universe / multiverse that I love the way the show is presented as Kate's like, I saw you at the top of the building, and I love how normal everything is. So, like, there's just a plaque with his name on it, but still somehow he's not like a millionaire or anything like that. He's just still a guy that just lives in presumably the Midwest that's just, you know...
He gets dinners comped every now and then.
Yeah, but that makes sense. He's internet famous. That's kind of how it feels like. He's not like this... But that's the part of being human in this show. He says, like, I was still built to be a weapon. Like, I'm still a SHIELD agent that was built to be a weapon.
He's not Tony Stark.
Yeah, I'm not Tony. I'm not a genius. I can just fight pretty well. That's all I can do. Like,
I fight real good.
Yeah, I'm just a guy that has a family. That's it. And I like that that's another thing I really liked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I know a lot of people, I guess, don't like that show as much. And I think that's the best part about these two shows, is these Earthbound shows are very, we're in the Avengers world, and everything's becoming very, like, it's if you were to pick up a Marvel comic nowadays and, like, Thor and Iron Man would be running amok in, like, New York, and everybody would be like, all right, well, now I got work at 6 a.m., so who cares? That's what the MCU feels like now. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoy it too, and it's just a testament to the world building that they've done over the last 13 years.
Right.
That stuff like this is just normalized. Like, you don't have to, you can ask questions, sure, but you don't have to ask as many questions. Right. Like, why is Kate Bishop fighting this person rolling through like an office complex? Right. And people aren't like reacting to it. Because it just is what it is. Right. This is what this is now.
I mean, half the population, they did the thing in Shang-Chi. She was just like half the population was snapped away, so anything can happen at any time. They were like, we were fighting a dragon, and then their friends were like, oh, okay, cool. Because it's normal. It's not like a crazy, like, you're fighting a dragon, it's like, oh, okay, you were fighting a dragon. Because there's a guy that literally triples in size and turns into a green monster, so nothing's insane anymore.
Yeah, which it's one of the biggest compliments I can give these shows, especially, like you said, because Loki and WandaVision kind of existed on different planes from this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Even Falcon and the Winter Soldier had elements of, not supernatural, but they were dealing in super soldiers.
Yeah, it was the much more Avengers level, but this was nowhere near the Avengers. That's why I loved it. That's another compliment I give to the show. It's the non-Avengers level kind of peril of this. It's not the world's gonna end if this happens. It's just, this girl's in danger, so I gotta save her. Like, that's what Hawkeye does. That's a Hawkeye thing to do.
Yeah, so let's talk about him a little bit. Jeremy Renner is back, obviously, as Clint Barton, and he's good.
He's probably my favorite that he's been. Outside of probably Age of Ultron, and this is probably my favorite he's been.
Yeah,
it's funny because when he has his family with him, he's good. He's a very believable dad.
Yeah, he is. And, he performs exactly the way that I thought when I saw the trailers for this. I was like, it's going to be diehard by the MCU.
Right.
And that's what this is. He's just like over it. He just wants to be done. You know what I mean? But he can't be done because he got roped in for this one thing.
Right. And with great power, then must also come great responsibility.
Yeah. And arrows. Heaps of arrows.
Yeah, heaps of arrows. Just
oh, man.
Of arrows.
I'm so pleased with the arrow selection utilized in this show.
Real quick, shout out Matt Fraction and David Aja for that comic, because we don't get most of this stuff without it. So thank you guys. Thank you fellas for that.
Shout out comics.
Yeah, shout out comics for being stupid and outlandish, because the last episode got extremely stupid and outlandish in the best possible way for the arrows. So
yeah, so there was that, and he's good. Like I said, he wears Weary very well.
Yeah,
he's not looking for a sidekick. He's not looking to be a mentor. No. He just wants to go home.
Yeah, and that was that really great moment in episode 3 where they talk. He tries to talk to Nathaniel, and once we'll get into spoilers in a little bit, but he's deaf at this point, so he's almost completely deaf. He can't, unless he has a hearing aid, and he can't hear. So you really feel.
It's very human.
Yeah, that's a huge part. You really feel the wear and tear of what somebody like Natasha or him would have to go through, or Falcon, like somebody that doesn't have these powers, or Scott. Like, if you get hit, you're gonna feel it, and I think that's the best part.
I think, what is it, Kate that asked him like what happened then, like his hearing?
Yeah,
and then it does like the supercut montage of like all the explosions and stuff he was around, like since the beginning of the MCU, really.
Right.
So I really like that a lot. Let's talk villains, not like the villain who's revealed at the end, but the antagonist as presented through most of the series is Maya Lopez. Echo is one. Pretty much the villain of this,
and then, also her mother.
Yeah, it's a plot twist.
Yeah, is that much of a plot twist, or I kind of got that from the first episode.
I think you could pick that pretty early on, that something is at least not on the up and up with her mother.
Right.
I don't know if it's her haircut that makes it seem that way.
True. Jack's a suspect.
Jack.
Your favorite.
Jack. I love Jack.
Just like Rose in Titanic, you also love Jack.
Yes, big time. Big fan of Jack Duquesne in this.
Yep, and then you have the Tracksuit Mafia. So it's basically Maya and the Tracksuit Mafia, as well as the upper elite of New York City, including Eleanor Bishop. And Eleanor Bishop is, again, no harm, no foul. I don't really have any reaction to her. I think that's kind of an issue that I'll get into later. I don't really have a reaction to her. I feel like if this show might have benefited from giving us 2 extra episodes. And I thought about that because I was like, this small chunk worked, and then after the first 3 episodes,
because there's a big reveal at the end of episode 5 that spins the whole narrative, basically.
Right. And it doesn't undo anything from Black Widow, which we'll get into, but it kind of bears more questions than answers at that point. And it's not in the way of the ambiguity, or maybe even we're setting stuff up. It just feels, did we forget what we just did in the last project? So yeah, I think this could have been 8 or 9 episodes, and it would have flushed out some of the other villains. That's my big thing. The villains just they didn't feel one-dimensional, but they just didn't feel necessary at some points.
Yeah, because there's there's one additional villain, and there's an additional antagonist who's thrown in. Mm-hmm. And it just becomes a lot. Right. It becomes a lot, and then Maya kind of takes a back step after probably episode 3 or 4.
Right, 4 essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so she takes a pretty big back step, and then she takes an even further back step from 5 to 6.
Yeah.
And she's almost not forgotten about by the time you get to 6, but by 6 she's kind of on the other side of things.
Yeah. Because 5, in my opinion, was a weaker episode because of that. Because of you did all this setup to make sure Maya was kind of, propped up to be the villain of the show. Or just the antagonist, like you said, not the villain, because it's Eleanor it's the front facing is Eleanor.
Because her motives are not outwardly villainous.
Right. She's just trying to avenge her father, which, I mean,
from her point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Right, yeah. It's like, who isn't trying to avenge their parents in the MCU at this point?
Yeah, because this show will harken back to Avengers Endgame and what Clint was up to when he was running.
So maybe Clint's the villain of the show.
Killing heaps of people.
Yeah, jeez. He was killing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, before we jump into spoilers, it's a solid show. It's the Marvel shows they haven't missed. So starting this year off with WandaVision, then going through the tribulations of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the highs of Loki, in my opinion, and into this, none of them have missed. I think this is probably maybe my least favorite, if I'm being honest. I know you like the show more than I do.
Yeah,
but
I do.
For all the reasons people don't like Falcon and the Winter Soldier is what I like. And I think that it helps it a little bit more. I think it is because it's dealing with that Avengers level where it's more contained in the 6 episodes and everything's moving more cohesively. Stuff starts to trail off in this show. That's what I think is the biggest issue. So, like, characters, even like Jack that I enjoy, what's the motivation behind it? And I understand the ambiguity of it, but there's no motivation. I even told you Kazi. You can take Kazi out of the show, it's the same show. And it's just weird that they did that because I believe in the Disney Plus setup. They were like, Froffrey's playing Kazi, it's going to be this bigger character from the show. Yeah. And it just doesn't pay off.
Yeah.
And it's even the Tracksuit Mafia, they were just, cannon fodder, which is fine. But even like Ivan, who was a big character from the comic, he's just there all the time. He's not doing anything. He's just another tracksuit.
I think the difference I think I like this a little bit better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I think there's opposing pacing problems with these two shows. I think why you think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is better than this is because the pacing problems in Hawkeye emerge at the end of the series, whereas in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think the pacing problems emerged right in the beginning.
Right, and then it fixes itself. And then it picked up. Because as soon as John takes the super soldier serum,
it kicks
and
up.
He kills one of the freedom fighters, immediately the show just kicks into high gear.
And it does exactly what you thought was going to happen, is that John Walker was going to be the antagonist.
Right.
Where they tried, like, the Flag Smasher stuff. I feel like the Flag Smasher stuff in Falcon and the Winter Soldier is equivalent to Kazi and the Tracksuit Mafia and Hawkeye.
I can agree with that because I don't love them either. Like, I don't think you can replace them. I just don't love when villains and characters are replaceable. Like, you can throw anybody in there because it takes away from anything that's going to relate myself or like the audience to them. There's no relation to them. Like, if you take Kate Bishop out of this show, one, there's no point of view character and there's not that lovable character. You take Clint out of the show. Where's the Avengers comp in this show? There's no Avengers comp in this show. There's nobody to kind of connect you. I know Miss Marvel and Moon Knight are kind of be the counter to that, but it's still interesting characters with interesting powers we're going to dive into. But this one, it just, like I said, it feels like a lot of motivations. It's not like the same way where our fan theories weren't paying off in WandaVision, because I don't like that argument at all that people try to use to kind of say WandaVision was the worst, because I don't care that your fan theory didn't pay off, you know what I mean? My issue is, like I said, Kazi, if you take him out of the show's the same. You take Jack out of the show too. You can replace Jack with anybody. Doesn't matter. Because I know he's the swordsman, and again, I'm not one of those people that says they need to be like the comic counterpart. But again, you take Jack out, the show doesn't change too much if he's not there. He just pops up and is funny. That's it.
You wouldn't think that, though, based on how the first 3 or 4 episodes go.
Exactly.
Because you think he's going to be important.
Right.
And then he's kind of not.
Yeah. He kind of gets the Scott Lang in Ant-Man and the Wasp vibe. Yeah. Of just, he kind of, spoilers, I guess, he kind of just divulges into the bumbling, capable but bumbling, comedy relief. And it's...
Yeah.
I liked it more for Jack than I did for Scott, but that's a different conversation.
And then kind of going back to the Falcon and Winter Soldier comps, so like I said, that show really kicks up when John Walker becomes the tried and true kind of antagonist.
And also when Zemo comes into the picture, that's when the show really flips, yeah.
This show does the same thing, and I guess we can just spoil this now, but this show does the same thing with Fisk.
Right.
But they do it way later than Falcon did it with John Walker.
Yeah.
Because they really only give Fisk an episode to breathe as the villain of the show, which is what he is.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's the man on top for he's the one that works above Echo. He's the one that works above Kate's mother.
Right.
But they don't reveal him until the very end of episode 5, and then we get a lot of him in episode 6. Yeah. But it feels like
you're also trying to pay off other storylines for 6. That's why it doesn't work, because you're trying to do so much in the finale. Because the finale was like 50 minutes long, like it was longer than the whole other show. But you're trying to fit everything in, and it's also you don't have to deal with the stuff he did in Daredevil, but you can't deny the fact that he was in Daredevil. So you're also trying to kind of think in your brain, what has he been doing this whole time?
And we haven't even talked about Yelena yet.
Yeah, that's another thing on top of this. Yeah, like, I think this show got bottlenecked into the last 2 episodes of this show.
Yeah,
and that's what
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to kind of, and like I said, the show is good. I really like this show still. Like, I have not liked any of the shows. Like we talked about Loki and WandaVision, where the other planes of existences, and these these are the street level quote unquote shows. I like Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit better than this.
Yeah,
and that's just my opinion.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I think they're probably on par for me. I think I like this a little bit better just because of the tone.
You love Jack, that's it.
I do love Jack, but I think honestly, it comes down to I think the leads are slightly better in this.
Agreed.
Than Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. Nothing against those two.
It's just their chemistry was it was 80s buddy cop, you know what I mean?
And it wasn't quite as good as I thought it was going to be. I thought their chemistry was going to be a little bit better in Falcon and the Winter. It felt a little forced.
But I mean, that goes back to your point, a very good point that you made, is that show was very... as soon as Jack flipped, but the pacing issues were in the beginning of the show. That's another they didn't even see each other in the first episode, and the show was 6 episodes
which
long.
I was fine with, but it was weird because I really liked their chemistry in Civil War.
Yeah.
And I wasn't crazy about it in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah. And that's a writing thing.
Right.
You know. At that point, it's not, obviously you've seen those two actors work together well. It's just, for some reason, it didn't click with me in Falcon. There are some really great scenes between them two.
I think the emotional bits also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier work a little bit better for me than in this show. I think that's also I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is shot better than Hawkeye. Hawkeye's got some cool action set pieces. Like they have the one in episode 3, the car chase is probably the crowning achievement right now in terms of action for the Disney Plus shows. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier just has better prolonged action. I mean, the opening of episode 5 is some of my favorite. I think we talked about it on the best MCU fights. It's some of my favorite when John fights Sam and Bucky. Yeah. I think it's some of the best that we've gotten. It's just, that show's just shot really well for that kind of street level. It's just a lot of attention to detail. The editing in Hawkeye just felt a little choppy. It felt like the Civil War era of the MCU too. It just felt really choppy and very just quick camera cuts.
I think that's a good call out. Like the hand-to-hand stuff is not on par with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but the action set pieces in Hawkeye, like the big ones, are great.
Because it's funny that you said that, because thinking about episode 6, the beginning of episode 6 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier started off well, especially the frame of him throwing the shield and then like he's officially Captain America, amazing. But then it just divulges and they're just in Manhattan and New York, and they're just in like scaffolding. Cool. We've seen that. We saw that in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
But like having the whole background of Christmas time in New York, it just
Rockefeller Plaza.
Yeah, like, just the buildings and the tree. It felt so like as a set piece, it felt much better. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So let's backtrack a little bit. So where Clint and Kate are kind of when the show kicks off. So Kate, we flash back to the Avengers 2012.
Great piece of continuity, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I love how they can just seamlessly throw these things in.
Again, the perspective in kind of where we are in the MCU where everything's normal.
Yep. So she sees basically the scene where she sees the scene in the Avengers where Hawkeye
watched the Avengers before.
Yeah, she's watching the Avengers in live time, and she sees Clint fall off a building and do his Hawkeye stuff, and she's like, "I want to be that guy when I grow up," basically. And fast forward, tragic stuff happens. Her father dies in the incident, as it's called in the Netflix universe. And fast forward to her being college age, Kate Bishop, and she's doing some, "Hi, my name's Kate Bishop, and welcome to Jackass," basically.
Right.
Shooting a tennis ball arrow at a clock tower just because she can.
Yeah. You gotta show off the skills. It's a very...
Clock tower dedicated to Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at first, which is a hilarious bit of writing, but I like the opening because it shows like I said, it just shows the childlike nature.
And it shows her charisma right away.
Right, yeah.
Like as soon as you see her, you're in love with her, basically.
Right. And kind of goes off the back that she can't do any wrong. So she's a rich kid in New York, so she hasn't had anything besides her father dying. There's nothing that like she's done wrong. Like, so it immediately sets up that she's trained hand to hand. She can fence. She's an expert archer. But what I like it doesn't do the Rey thing from Star Wars where she's perfect right away. It doesn't do that. It's like, cool, she can fight, but she just hasn't fought at an Avengers level. Like, if she fights the tracksuit, she can beat them, but if she fights, like, if she went hand to hand with Clint or, like, Yelena, which she does a bunch of times in the show, it's not even close. But she's not there yet. She could get there. She's not there. I think that's what a little bit of season 2 is going to be about.
Probably.
Turning her into a better, because they're probably going to be like, you can shoot your arrow, but you need to learn how to fight.
Yeah. So that's basically where she's at. Clint is just trying to have a good time in New York with his family.
They go to Rogers the Musical.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little fun, kind of just fun in-universe humor there.
Yeah.
About Clint being like, that's not how it happened, but whatever.
Ant-Man wasn't there. He said, you know who wasn't there? Ant-Man wasn't there.
He gets real depressed because he sees the Black Widow actress on screen, and it reminds him of Natasha. That's a through line through this whole series. And then, just as he's about to get out of New York, stuff kicks up. So there's
an auction.
There's a black market auction, classic New York black market auction,
right.
in comic book universes.
Right. So Kate's mother is a socialite in New York. They're rich, and there's this auction. So she's now married. She's engaged to this man, Jack Duquesne, who's part of this long lineage of the Duquesnes and Armand Duquesnes. Maybe the first Duke Armand or the first of 7 if the kid's there. But they go to this black market arms, and then you kind of get the feeling that both Eleanor and Jack are up to something.
Yes,
and
especially Jack, because he's there at the black market auction.
He's actually there, and then Jack's uncle Armand, and then Eleanor were having an argument before, and then he says, do you know who I am or who I deal with? And then Armand actually
And then everyone eyebrow raise.
Right.
What does that mean? Turns out, Armand murdered.
Yeah, Armand killed. Yeah, socialite Armand Duquesne one of possibly 7 has been killed.
Yeah, so at the black market auction is the Ronin suit.
Yes,
surprise.
Yeah.
The guy gets up there and he's like, I don't know if you guys have seen Avengers Endgame, but we have the Ronin suit.
Yeah.
Complete set.
Yeah, we got the sword and the suit.
And Jack's like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I like swords.
I like swords.
Yeah.
And then it kicks up.
Yeah.
The tracksuit mafia arrives. Kaboom. Break it into the black market auction.
So now, again, another thing that didn't pay off, they were looking for the watch. Why? That's another thing about this show. Why were they looking for the watch? Never gets paid off. Again, this show probably could have benefited from 1 to 2 more episodes because of that. Like, why
the only thing I can think of is that Maya knew it was Laura Barton's watch.
Yeah.
And we find out later, she was keeping close tabs on Clint and his family.
So, but still, why is the watch itself important? Because the watch felt like the MacGuffin of the show for the first 3 episodes.
I always thought the Ronin costume felt like the MacGuffin.
True. But the watch was like the underlying, felt like the Soul Stone almost, like the piece they
It felt like the Power Broker thing to me.
Okay.
Like, what's the deal with the watch? What's the deal with the Power Broker? Like the same type of mystery.
Right.
And in both instances, it was just like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
like Sharon Carter's the Power Broker. Like they pretty much told you Sharon Carter was the Power Broker, and the theories went crazy. But the show was probably just short of literally telling you that Sharon was the Power Broker.
Right.
And the same thing with this. I pretty much figured out that it was Laura's watch. But they don't pay that off until the end of the season.
Right.
So Kate gets a hold of the Ronin suit, and she just escapes with it, and she saves a dog. Great dog.
Yeah. I just want to talk about how funny she is as Kate. I love the scene where she was wearing a black suit because I don't need to wear a dress. Thank you. That's not how it should work. So she's wearing, but it's funny because she's wearing the exact same garb as all the servers in the entire place. So she sneaks into the black
That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show.
And she tells this kid, she's just like, let me take the plate from you. I got it. And he was just like, I'm the only one that's working this floor. And she's just like, you might want to take it up with Gary. Gary's the one you want to take it up with. And then the guy's name's actually Gary, and he walks downstairs, and she's just like, that's the thing, Gary. You don't even remember my name, so I quit. It's just, her incidental moments are amazing. That's my favorite thing about Haley Steinfeld and anything she does. It's the little ticks. It's kind of similar to how Charlie Cox does his little head tilts when he's being Matt Murdock. It's like the same thing. Like her little
effortless. Kind of like we talked about Andrew Garfield last week. It's just effortless. It doesn't feel like acting. It just feels like she is the character.
Yeah, it's like the little stutter she does. She's like, if you're gonna treat me like this, Gary, then I can't even work. I quit. It's great.
And so she gets a hold of the Ronin suit, escapes from the tracksuits, and saves a dog. And then Clint's just sitting at home watching the news, and lo and behold, the Ronin's on the TV, and he's like, "Well, I'm sitting right here. Now I gotta do this."
Right. Kids, I'm gonna send you back to
Also, Clint, bad Avenger. How did you just lose the Ronin costume?
That's what I'm saying. How does one lose unless there's somebody... See, this is... If I'm going to give a rogue theory about the show, the Skrulls are... They might be running amok everywhere because how do you just... It's not like he just...
Unless he just left it there.
But then who took it? You know what I mean? Like, who took the suit to get it to that auction?
Someone scavenged the compound.
Yeah, unless
after
it's
the events of Endgame.
Unless it was Sharon Carter that did that as the power broker. That might be something else. Because, again, Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier both had Val, but surprisingly, this show did not have her. That's where I was kind of confused.
Yeah, I thought for sure they would use her in a post-credit scene.
Maybe it was as simple as scheduling. Maybe that might have been, yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a real thing. So yeah, Clint and then Kate and Clint meet each other, and he's like, "Why you got my suit?" And she's like, "Oh my God, you're Hawkeye.
You're literally my favorite Avenger." Said nobody ever.
So they get together, and it's kind of on from there. Their chemistry is great right away. He's the old guy who wants nothing to do with her, and she's just so excited to meet her hero, wants to learn from him, and he's like, "No, no, 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 no." And then that's pretty much where the show kicks off, really, as Kate's going through this thing, trying to figure out, she doesn't think there's something quite right with Jack. Clint just wants the Ronin suit and to end this with the tracksuit mafia because Echo appears and she's got a big vendetta against the Ronin because the Ronin murdered her father.
Yeah, so let's get into the best episodes. So the first 2 episodes, they're, again, just very, very simple. You're fun, questions asked. Not a lot going on. It's not a crazy amount, but we're living in the perspective of the MCU where everything's normal at this point. So then we divulge into the best episode of this season and probably one of the best episodes of all the Disney Plus shows. So it starts with one of the most heartbreaking and the most heartfelt openings to any of these shows and any of the movies, in my opinion. So you get Maya's backstory. So it's just, this is where, I don't know if somebody directed episode 3 that didn't direct the rest of them, because it even felt different from the other episodes. But what it is we start out with Maya's origin, and Maya, you find out, is this deaf girl that lives in New York. Her father is working for somebody that has a very similar laugh to the Kingpin and very similar stature. But yeah, Maya's father is a tracksuit, and obviously it's kind of implied that he's a little bit higher than everybody else, and Maya's kind of being practitioned to be kind of the next heir or next in line. She's just really liked, and she's really training. She's the comp to Kate Bishop. That's who she is. She's the one that was not rich. She's not rich. She's deaf and she's a paraplegic. So she's not like this perfect person that Kate Bishop is, that had all these things handed to her. That's like, both of them lost their father, and still one of them turned out like Maya and one of them turned out like Kate. It's really well done, but it's
nature versus nurture.
Yeah. So Maya gets to her adult age, and we get this really good sequence with, I think it's a one take, so Maya just pulls up to, Fat Man Auto Repair, which is another nod to Wilson Fisk, and she's going to see her father, and then you just see the Ronin just Batman Arkham series stealthing around the entire place.
That's what he does to the Yakuza in Endgame.
Right, just killing everybody. Yeah, so then you get to a really beautiful scene with her and her father where she's holding him, and then he puts his hand on her face to mimic the comic counterpart where she has the kind of the white tattoo of the hand on her face, and it's just an incredible sequence. Just really well done to start out the episode. Just really hit you, and I was like, oh wow, I did not think this is how this episode was going to start out. So
really great job of establishing the antagonist.
Yes, that's how you do it. It's just, they're not a 100% bad person. They have, they're not going to do great things, but they're just somebody that's maybe a little bit misunderstood, but it has a very clear-cut mission that they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so she's confronting Clint and Kate, who are captured by the tracksuits at this point.
Tracksuit's hilarious.
Oh man, dude. As far as comic relief cannon fodder guys go, they're right up there with Stormtroopers.
Yes. We are Royal Tenenbaums, bro.
They're right up there with the sword.
Yes.
The guy who is constantly getting hit with the most non-lethal arrows and just screeching. That's my favorite guy.
Yeah. Yep. No, he's great.
So she's got the other, and then she's got Kazi, who's like, he was her father's right hand, so he's her right hand.
And they're not in a relationship.
It's a thing, but it's not a thing. It's sort of a thing.
They love each other.
He's the only one that seems to understand that she's deaf also.
Yeah, because the other ones are idiots, I guess.
So, yeah, and then Clint and Kate escape. There's a big fight, and then it goes into that great one shot in the car.
Yes.
That you talked about earlier.
Right. So yeah, one of the best sequences in the entire MCU, in my opinion. Again, just really great one take of them, pulled right from the comic as well, of them just escaping the tracksuits, using a bunch of trick arrows. And again, so Clint, his hearing aid gets destroyed by Maya. So, and it's another great part, which we'll get into later, is Clint's deafness in the show is handled really well. Because you don't expect that from an Avenger. You don't expect that to
get more humanizing.
Right, to have something like that be wrong with them. So
it's like it's a better handled disability thing than how Iron Man 3 handled Tony's PTSD.
The demon in the bottle, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we divulge into this one take, and they're just trying to communicate, and Clint's just like, you drive. She's just like, I can't drive. I mean, which is kind of funny because they live in New York, and she's a socialite, so why would she need to ever drive?
Exactly.
So, yeah, Clint ends up driving, and then it's amazing. Just one of the best sequences that you'll see. Just Haley
really,
Stein,
really
they
good.
bounce off each other really well. The arrows, just like, don't use this arrow, it's way too dangerous. She's just like, you have more arrows dangerous than this one. It's great stuff.
Pimtech arrow.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And then the way you kind of should do it, in my opinion, is you follow that big action set piece up with one of the most emotional bits from these shows. And Nathan calls Clint.
Oh, dude.
And it's just, you're on the border of tears every time you see it because he can't hear him. So Kate quickly has to translate for him and just kind of interpret what he's saying. And he says, if you don't, it's like, you could tell, maybe they are a little SHIELD agents, because even Nathan says, if you can't come home for Christmas, I understand, it's okay. Like, understanding his father's an Avenger and how important he is. It's just, it's so
really
heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Jeremy Renner as a father in this show, he's great. It's
I also like
best thing.
I also liked in that episode, circling back to Maya and Clint with Clint's deafness, where Maya's like, you think I'm the one with the disability, but you rely on this.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
without this, you can't do anything,
Right.
guy.
And look at me. Yeah, look what I can do. I don't even have one of my legs, and I don't have my hearing, and look what I can do.
Yeah, so again, really, really good stuff from her. So then Clint, basically his new mission is dealing with Maya and the tracksuits, resolving it. He leaves that very ambiguous to what that means, and getting the hell out of New York.
Right.
Meanwhile, Kate is still trying to uncover the conspiracy behind Jack, and I think it's at this point she may think her mother maybe sort of is involved.
No, I don't think so yet.
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, because I think at this point it's 100% Jack.
Yeah, so Clint, and then so they go to look for the watch, which again, we don't know why. Clint finds out that Maya's been keeping tabs on him and his family, which also is kind of weird because she seems surprised that when he unmasked himself as Ronin.
Right.
So, I don't know. But anyway, there's a fight on the roof, and insert Yelena Belova into the story.
Yes. So Florence Pugh is back and all her...
She's at the back of episode 4. She doesn't really do anything in episode 4. Episode 5 is when you get more of her.
Right. And you want to talk about battling for charisma on that screen? And I was kind of nervous that it was going to be, she was just going to immediately take Haley Steinfeld's shine. But then once you get to episode 5, it's the both of them
together.
And you immediately realize that Marvel's like, oh yeah, they're going to get their... Hawkeye season 2 is just going to be the two of them. And it's going to be, hey, you got to learn how to fight a little bit. And it's going to be like, Yelena kind of learning how to be an American. I think that's a big piece of what it's like how to be a New Yorker too. It's gonna be fun stuff.
So she's paying off what the post-credit scene of Black Widow set us up for. She's here to kill Clint Barton. And Kate Bishop's like, Clint Barton is a great guy. And, it's unveiled that, Yelena tells her, I'm Natasha's sister. And Kate's like, that makes even less sense now that you would want to kill him because him and Natasha were like best friends. And Yelena was like, he's responsible for my sister's death, blah, blah, blah. The conversation they have is way funnier and way better than how we're explaining it because Yelena is just magnetic. She's great. Florence Pugh is great.
The best part about Yelena in this show is how regular she is and the normal interactions. It's not like we're not in like the Iron Man Captain America where every conversation is like we gotta lay down our lives for these people. And it's like I want to put a suit of armor around the world. And
there's a material difference immediately between how Yelena interacts with people and how Natasha did, which I kind of like. I mean, I think I said to you before we hopped on, I was like, is she too jokey? But then again, I think it's a thinking about it as we're talking
Yeah,
about
I think I said
it's a good contrast.
Right, I said because Natasha wasn't, so it's her little sister. Because you probably know a bunch of siblings. Siblings are usually not the same. One of them is probably more serious than the other one is, and I kind of like that. She's not like overly serious, this full out espionage. Like, no, I'm Yelena, because Natasha's always having to hide, especially in the earlier Marvel movies. Like Yelena's like, I'm just Yelena 100% of the day, so I'm gonna be myself the whole time.
Yeah, so she falls out a window, and that's pretty much the last we see of her in episode 5.
She gets her new signature move that she was making. So it's basically she's doing the Jesus pose falling out of windows, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. All the meanwhile, Clint is preparing to finish things with Maya. He has a really great exchange with the Tracksuit Mafia, but he shoots an arrow through the windshield, and there's a little note inside. Just again, real great stuff with the arrow diversity in this series. And the tracksuits, yeah. So it's like, meet me after school behind the buses at 4:30 is basically what he says to Maya. And there's not a great hand-to-hand fight between Ronan and Maya.
Yeah, again, episode 3 felt like it was shot much better than the other episodes.
Yeah, and I think that episode 3 fight works, not fight, because it's a chase sequence. It's, again, to your point, it's a good action set piece. Whereas this is a straight hand-to-hand fight between Ronan and Maya that was built up to be a bigger deal than it ended up being. It was a lot of quick cuts, a lot of up-close shots. Kazi is immediately neutralized.
Yeah, again, if Kazi's not in the show's the same. Yeah, he never feels like a threat, you know what I mean?
No. He's a threat in passing more than a threat on screen because, Clint eventually reveals to Maya, like, the only reason I was there that night is because
I was hired.
Someone set your dad up, basically. And it was someone that works for your boss. Bum bum, dun dun.
Yeah.
And, because none of the other tracksuits in the show seem capable, you pretty much know that it's Kazi. And Maya pretty much immediately knows that it's Kazi also.
My boyfriend's evil.
When she's like, where were you? Why weren't you at the meeting that night? Yeah. Kazi was like, I don't know, man.
Where were the drugs going?
He's like, I don't know, man. I didn't get the call. And Maya's like, yeah, okay. And like at first you thought like she kind of believes him, and then you're like, no, wait a minute, she doesn't believe him at all. And even Kazi's like, crap.
Yeah.
And then we get to the end of episode 5 and the shoe drops. Jack is not as bad a guy as we thought.
He's in fact the best guy.
Kate's mom is the bad guy.
Yeah, dun dun dun.
Yelena shoots Kate a text that she was like, your mom hired me to kill Clint on behalf of this man.
Yeah.
Boom. Vincent D'Onofrio's back.
He's back, baby.
Vinny D.
Yeah. From Full Metal Jacket fame.
And Kate's like, who's that with my mom? And Clint's like, that's the Kingpin. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Trademark.
Right. So for the 1% of the population that didn't see Spider-Man No Way Home, both of them are back. Wow. Really here.
Yeah.
Really here.
Yeah, so the Netflix characters are slowly but surely being folded into the MCU in varying degrees and slight tweaks on their characters. And boy, is that ever apparent with Wilson Fisk.
Because he is in episodes, he's in it. He is the
a lot of Kingpin
villain.
in episode 6. Yeah. And honestly, it was kind of one of my problems because he is as good as you remember him being in Daredevil, and I wish they had introduced him sooner in this. If not as kind of like the guy... If they would have introduced him in like episode 2 or 3 proper, but had him not doing a lot, but just kind of operating like in the background, and then episode 6 we get this more like full frontal look at him, I think it would have been better. Because then you would have been able to look at him in 2 and 3 and be like, there's the villain of the show, and I can't wait to see our heroes go up against this villain. Instead, it was like, is Maya the antagonist? Is Jack the antagonist? Like, who's the villain here? And then Fisk shows up, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then the show's over.
Yeah, then the show's just over. Yeah, so episode 6. So let's get into the season finale. Good stuff, man. It's a solid finale. I think in terms of finales, I think I like this one a little bit more than Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I think this is probably the second best finale behind the Loki finale.
Yeah. Oh, I just watched that Loki finale a couple days ago. Phenomenal. It's incredible what they were able to pull off. But again, what Falcon and the Winter Soldier doesn't do, which this one does, I do like the emotional payoff from Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit better, but it's the set piece of the finality of the last episode this does a little bit better. And I know we said that obviously Wilson Fisk is kind of not shoehorned, but it's not a lot of time. It's a lot of time he spends in the episode, but as a whole, it's not a lot of time he spends in the show. The counter to that is he's in this for a while, and it's great action pieces with him. It's not a lot of him just saying, you know what, I'm just sitting in a chair just telling people he gets stuff done. And that's one of my favorite parts about Kingpin is he gets his hands dirty a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of it. In this episode, yeah. Yeah, so it immediately picks up where episode 5 left off, and Kingpin is talking with Kate's mom, and she's basically like, I want out. Kingpin's like, you don't get out. That's not how this works. So
you learn that Kate's father was working for Kingpin, and he owed him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that, sometimes you're not out. If you think you're out, you're not out.
Especially when it comes to Wilson Fisk. So yeah, there's that. We watched the episode prior to filming this, recording this. They do a lot of neat tricks with Kingpin. They shoot him up a lot to make him look bigger than he actually is, to kind of exude that Kingpin presence that you need in this universe. In Daredevil, his presence kind of spoke for itself.
Because there was no Avengers running around.
Yeah. Now we have Avengers and space people and aliens, so you gotta make the Kingpin look larger than life and act larger than life, and he does that a lot in this episode. So he has a meeting with Maya and Kazi, and he's like, I love you, Maya, you're the best. Maya's like, I just need a break for a little while, but she's secretly plotting to just get away in general, and Kingpin immediately knows this. He's like, she's betrayed us, we could deal with it.
Gives one of the best lines in the show. He's just like, we need to remind this city who's in charge. I was like, yes, he's back.
Yeah, this city belongs to me.
Yeah.
And then, Kate and Clint are trying to protect Kate's mother, isolate her, confront her for all the ills that she's done. Jack's out of prison. He's at the dinner party with a sword at his hip, which I particularly enjoy.
Yeah, it's one of those meta things where it's so stupid, but it's so hilarious where you can kind of forgive it. Because why would he have a sword at a dinner party, apart from him being the swordsman?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I just immediately was like, okay, it's fine. It's just, it is what it is.
So, all heads are meeting. Yelena shows up to this dinner party also, because she's still got to kill Clint. Kazi's across the street with a sniper rifle, looking to kill somebody.
What a joke.
Just takes a shot at Clint. I don't think he was there to kill Clint, but he just saw him, so he was like, I'm just going to kill Clint Barton.
They should have hit him with the Peacemaker line. Kazi, what a joke.
Yeah. Beforehand, Clint and Kate are making heaps of trick arrows that they're hanging on.
So there's also a really good moment because Clint immediately understands, hey, this 22-year-old girl's life just got turned upside down because now her father's dead and now her mother's the main villain. So now it's not good. So his tone of voice changes when they're on the train, and it's just this really small moment of like him being a father figure again, of being like, oh no, like playing on her like youthfulness of, oh no, like I don't understand your mom's. We gotta go get some trick arrows, I guess. And she's just like it's like a kid seeing toys on Christmas.
Yeah,
it's like we're gonna get trick arrows. It's like it's great. It's like it's amazing. Like, their dynamic is so good.
Q Arrow season 1 montage of them making the trick arrows and sharpening them and spray painting them, and then really cool. And boy, did the trick arrows get used.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So before we get to that, there's all hell's breaking loose. Kazi's got a sniper rifle. Kazi's got a gun. Dun dun dun.
So they're at the Bishop Christmas. So that's where where this starts off. So they're at the annual crime Christmas party. It's great.
Yeah.
And Jack's back, like you said, and then starts popping off after that.
Kate gets a hold of her mom, and she's like, I know everything. Who is this man? Who is this man behind the curtain? And Eleanor's like, yeah, you gotta, the things I do for love. She goes, Jamie Lannister season 1 on her. The things I do for love, I did this for you, yada yada. All the typical stuff that evil parents say to their superhero kids. We did this all for you, blah, 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 blah. All hell's breaking loose. Yelena is there looking for Clint. Clint fires gas at Kazi, neutralizes him again. The tracksuits are there, and then pretty much it's pedal to the metal from there. Yelena is looking for Clint. Kate intercepts Yelena. They have another just stellar interaction in the elevator.
Yeah. It's amazing because, again, it shows how much more advanced that Yelena, and they're roughly around the same age because Yelena, I think, is, what is she, like 24? Like, she's like young, and then Kate's 22, so they're the comp. They're the new Black Widow in Hawkeye, so it's really fun that they're using that. But
Kate slaps Yelena in the
it's
elevator,
great because...
And Yelena's like, whoa!
Yeah, so they're both in the elevator, and Yelena just... Anything that Kate throws at her, it doesn't work because, obviously, one of them is trained by your local YMCA director, and the other one's trained by a group of assassins. So it's just Yelena kind of flips her, and like, because she tries to reach for the buttons to do the elf thing. They did what do they do? They did Big and they did Elf in this movie. Mm-hmm. So it's the elf moment where he presses all the buttons. Kate's trying to do it, but Yelena just keeps pulling her away, mm-hmm. and then she turns her around and then she smacks her in the face, and Yelena's like, what was that?
Kate's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I love there's no overreaction from Yelena because they're friends. They don't know it yet, but they're friends.
Yeah.
Yelena knows it. But...
And Yelena knows, all things considered, Kate is harmless.
Yeah.
To her.
She probably is a good, because again, Yelena's not a bad, like, if this was a different timeline, she would have been an Avenger by now. Like, that's kind of what you get from it.
It's the Andrew Garfield thing with the bread.
Right.
Where, like, he's not threatened.
Right.
And Yelena's not threatened by Kate.
Yeah.
She's caught surprised by Kate, but she's not threatened by her. So she's like, yeah, all right, whatever. You hit me. Cool. Thanks.
Right. So then, yeah, she rips off Kate's dress, and then it unveils the new Hawkeye suit that was made, and she's just like, was that planned? And she's just like, yes. And again, just how great Haley Steinfeld is in those like incidental moments, like, yes, no. And then so then she does the elf thing, she presses all the buttons, and Yelena's like, come on. And then she jumps out of the elevator, and she's also wearing her suit under her jacket, which is again hilarious. And then
they have a Super Mario level style fight through a bunch of hallways,
right? And a great one take through the hallways. They're just kind of, and then Kate's just like, come on, what are we doing? Let's just go get some drinks. It's fine. Everything's cool. And then
Yelena's like, yeah, we will. After I kill Barton.
I love that. I just love that about her, where it's just like, no, I need to kill him. It's like, yeah, we can do that. I just gotta kill him real quick, and then we can do whatever you want to do.
So she goes out the window again.
Mm-hmm.
She starts firing off at Clint. Clint's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I gotta deal with Natasha's sister.
Yeah.
On top of everything else that I'm dealing with.
I just want to
go home for Christmas. Kate follows her out the window shortly thereafter. Yeah. We get a tremendous action set piece with Jack.
Yes, he's back. and he's it's the swordsman, but he's a
Zorro.
Yeah, he's Zorro. He's just a bumbling fun guy.
He's whipping down tracksuit mafia guys left and right with a smile on his face the entire time.
You made the good point. It's just like, we're at the point in this universe where it's like, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have an origin yet, I guess, because maybe they explore that. He's definitely going to come back.
I would say so, yeah.
Because I don't think you just throw away a character like the swordsman like that. I think you make sure. It's like,
exactly. He doesn't need an origin.
I hope he becomes an Avenger, but it's like in that respect of like, this is who we're letting into the Avengers now. Yeah. We're just letting anybody in here. I think it would be great.
Yeah, he doesn't need an origin. Who cares? He showed up. He's great at sword fighting.
Right.
Good.
I thought because in the comics, Clint is trained by the swordsman. So I thought what was going to happen in episode 4, the beginning, where he's holding the sword to his head, I thought what was going to happen was we were finally going to get Hawkeye's origin in the MCU, and it was going to be like Jack's pointing a sword at him, and he turns around, he's like, Clint, and he's like, Jack, and then they just hug each other after that. But
turns out he was just at that black market auction because he wanted that Ronin sword.
Yeah, he just needs heaps of swords. That's it. Just wants loads and loads of swords.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Clint is stuck in the Rockefeller tree.
Yes, so they're shooting at him. It's like the Avengers Endgame one where all the, what do they call them, the Outriders are after him, and he just jumps out the window. He's like, oh, what a Christmas.
He fights Kazi real quick.
Yeah. Disposes of Kazi.
So Kazi's 0 for 3 now?
I'm sorry to Free. You're a great actor. You did great. I just can't get down with Kazi in this
So he's
show.
0 for 3 now?
Yeah, he is.
So now Kate shoots down the Rockefeller tree to get Clint out of the tree. Clint's like, don't do it. Kate's like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. You know what I wish would have happened when Clint said, I want you to repeat after me, you're not going to do anything stupid. I wish he kind of would have mumbled, I'm not going to do anything stupid, and then shot down.
Yeah.
But no, great stuff.
And then we
the tree,
transitioned into the pinnacle of the action set pieces of this show, the fight at Rockefeller Plaza, where it's just trick arrow bonanza.
Mm-hmm. Sonic arrows.
Explosion arrows. Airbag
arrows.
Magnetic arrow.
What is it? The
pin arrow.
Yeah, to make you sleep.
Yep. Then there's like the spike strip arrow.
Yeah.
That she shoots and a bunch of metal spikes shoot out. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. It's everyone complaining, Hawkeye doesn't use enough trick arrows. Yeah, well, here you go.
Yeah,
We're
he
using
used every trick arrow he could. Tech arrows, Stark Tech arrows, he used them all.
Yeah, and it's really, really tight action. They're spinning around on ice. Ice is a really great kind of platform for
it's
what's
Clint's
going
by
on.
himself, and then Kate just slides in on the ice and just...
It's really good. Yeah. So that's going on. Maya confronts Kazi finally, and they have a touching moment. Did you feel the emotion there?
I didn't. Again, did be in the show.
Maya kills Kazi, and Kazi's like, he's going to come after you, alluding to Kingpin, obviously. And then speaking of Kingpin, Eleanor is trying to escape, and Kingpin rips a car door straight off of the hinges.
So, I mean, another theory. So he's got to be on something, right?
Is he on something, or are they're just like hand wavy and just like he's super strong now?
He's got to be on something. He's got to have some super soldier something in him. So, I mean, who else could supply that outside of the power broker? So, I would be interesting to see if Sharon Carter's like, here you go, Wilson.
Yeah. Kate shows up, shoots an arrow straight into Kingpin's chest. He swats it aside with his cane.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you going to do with that? Great stuff from Vincent D'Onofrio. He's amazing in this episode.
Yeah. just tossing her around, just throwing her everywhere.
Yep.
And then Eleanor drives a car at like 100 miles per hour into Fisk, and he just gets up.
Yep. He's throwing Kate around some more, punches her through a wall at one point.
Snaps like 20 arrows in half with his bare hands.
He's like, you're starting to annoy me. And then she outsmarts him. She uses his cufflink, his trademark cufflink, flips it into a bunch of arrows.
Pay off the him teaching. It's like, I'm a weapon. Like, I can use anything as a weapon, yeah.
Zaps him and zaps Fisk into oblivion, and then has her mom arrested, and her mom tries to gaslight her.
Yeah, her mom says, wow, so this is Christmas to you?
She goes, this is what heroes do, arrest their mothers on Christmas.
Yeah, and I would have been like, no, I'm arresting a supervillain on Christmas.
Yeah. Cut back to Clint and Yelena are having their fight. Yelena's like, you killed my sister, you're responsible for it. Clint's like, wait.
Hold on.
He's like, she sacrificed herself. Yelena's like, my sister would never.
Even though she hasn't seen the other Avengers movies.
Yeah. So, and then, they resolve their differences. Clint does the secret Black Widow whistle, and that breaks Yelena's soul. And, Clint, they talk it out. They fight for a bit, and then they're mates. Is basically what happens there.
She's the friends now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
That's it.
We didn't even talk about the LARPers. And again, to my point.
There's a reason.
Yeah. You take them out of the show is the same.
Clint's also got a comic book accurate suit now.
Yeah, he does. Their suits are great. Their suits are amazing.
Yeah, and then we're home for the holidays.
Yeah, so they make it back in time, and I'm sorry for everybody that I said that Hawkeye was going to die. He's alive.
He's alive. He made it home for Christmas. He brought the dog. He brought Kate. And he brought Kate.
And somehow the household wasn't turned upside down when he brought Kate home.
Yeah. He brings the watch back to Laura. She spins the watch around. Surprise! She's Agent 19, also known as Mockingbird. So, R.I.P. to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You guys didn't see the emotion I just had in my face, just despair, because I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the later seasons is really good.
It is. We've talked about that in the podcast before. But yeah, so Laura Barton is Mockingbird. Tony Stark was right in Age of Ultron when he picked Hawkeye's family as S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He at least got it right about his wife.
Yeah, so, all in all...
and this is the post-credit scene where they give us the full musical.
Yeah, and it's not there's no reveal, it's just the full musical number from Rogers the Musical, the Battle in New York one. So, great fun. People were I wasn't as mad about that as
I don't know why people were so mad.
They were like, why didn't we get it was the WandaVision thing again. Why didn't we get our fan theories confirmed? I'm sorry.
What did you want?
Yeah.
What did you want as a post-credit scene?
Exactly. It was a very final finale. It's okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun show. Fun post-credit scene.
Yeah, outside of Fisk definitely not being dead. It's just being black.
Oh, that's right. Maya shoots Fisk in the face.
Yeah, they did the comic thing, and he's not dead because he even says the line, something, eye for an eye, and then he gets shot because what happens is he just goes blind, and like Daredevil, and then that's when I think you're in the Brian Michael Bendis era of Daredevil where Fisk is blind, and really amazing.
So Fisk and presumably Daredevil will return in Echo, when the Echo show comes out.
So basically Daredevil season 4. We're not beating around the bush. We see what you're doing, Marvel.
Yeah. Presumably those two will be back, and Fisk will be the main antagonist, presumably, of the Echo series.
And Echo's probably what I think they're going to do, Echo's going to replace Elektra to Daredevil, because Elektra is either dead or mindless by the end of Defenders. I'm pretty. She's at least mindless. She doesn't have her mind, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't even matter if she was alive.
I guess maybe that's what people were expecting in a post-credit scene. They were expecting Daredevil.
Yeah. But he was on the Sony set.
Yeah, he was in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what... I was really caught off guard by how mad people were about the Hawkeye post-credit scene.
Yeah,
Didn't you guys understand? Did you guys notice the whole tone of the whole show?
Yeah.
The post-credit scene was always going to be silly and ridiculous.
Right. So yeah, solid show. Definitely, like I said, it's not that it's the worst show. It's not that it's a bad show. It's not even that it's an okay show. It's a good show. I personally enjoyed it the least out of them. To comp for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a little bit better. That's just my opinion. I 1,000,000% see why this one, to a lot of people, is better. A lot of great action set pieces, and for the bad, just the payoffs. And it's not like fan theory payoffs. I mean, actual character motivations for payoffs and characters in the show did not pay off as well. Some of the editing and some of the fights really choppy.
It was a little less defined as far as, like I said, who the bad guy actually was. And once you get to Fisk, the Maya thing completely falls off a cliff, which is a shame because I really like that character.
Yeah, at least she's coming back. That's the best. Right. Yeah.
And they did need a way to justify her being a hero in her series. So they needed to not only make her the antagonist, but also turn her by the end of this series. And I thought with the time they had, I think, like I said, I really do think that could have been alleviated by introducing Fisk earlier on. If they had introduced Fisk earlier on, you would have known that Maya wasn't the villain. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So that would be my only gripe. But I understand why they did it. They didn't want... Maybe they couldn't get Vincent D'Onofrio for that long.
Sure.
Maybe they just wanted to hang on to that reveal,
Right.
So maybe they wanted to hang on to that reveal till after Spider-Man, honestly.
Right. No, I agree. I think that's probably what it was, because if they would have thrown Kingpin in, which it was a day before Spider-Man came out. But
still, yeah.
Right.
But if they had revealed him in episode 2, people would have been frothing at the mouth for Charlie Cox to be in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
So I think they wanted these things to happen. It's not an accident. They wanted it to happen in close proximity to each other. But yeah, that's Marvel's final offering until Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about this street level? So this non-multiversal cosmic...
I think it's building towards some really interesting stuff.
Yes, I agree. So you kind of, again, Young Avengers are forming in the background again, because not only it could also be Yelena could be fighting. So again, I think what's going to happen is we're getting into this... We're going to need an Avengers team pretty soon to protect the Earth, and it's going to be like John Walker, Yelena, Kate, and John's going to be the reluctant one of, hey, I'm not with you guys on this. I still got the super soldier serum pumping through my veins, so I'm not as clear-minded as you guys, but yeah, I can definitely see some street-level Avengers coming to fruition.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think even if you wanted to throw Spider-Man into that mix, especially since no one knows who he is,
Right.
And he already, even though no one knows who he is, he's still an Avenger.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So, he could show up as the big gun of this new kind of Avengers team.
Yeah.
Whereas he's the big gun, and then Sam is the leader of the team, and then you have everyone else falling under him.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. So we've had WandaVision, the mania which is WandaVision. We had kind of a little bit more calm, but we got a lot of great pieces from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We had what I think is one of the best things that Marvel has ever done with Loki, and then we have Hawkeye, this really fun, contained show. So rank them for me, putting you on the spot.
Loki 1, Hawkeye, Falcon, Wanda. It's WandaVision and Falcon in some order. I love the ambition of what WandaVision did. I love how different it was. I love that, man, those first few episodes in the different timelines and just the aesthetic of, especially that first episode, the 50s episode was perfect. The way that they emulated that style. It's tough to compare those two, in a ranking way. I think I would probably say Falcon and then WandaVision last. Okay. Not that WandaVision was bad. I really enjoyed WandaVision. There were some moments in Falcon that resonated so heavily with me in not just the themes of it, but also just, I don't know why whenever I think of that show, I think of the one scene with Bucky and Sam in the interrogation room when Bucky goes, Steve gave you that shield, he believed in you. And he said, maybe he was wrong maybe he was wrong about you, and he was wrong about you, he was wrong about me.
Yeah.
That was that scene, I was like, wow.
Yeah, even the beginning of, what was it, episode 4, I believe, where Bucky got his conditioning undone, and Sebastian Stan is just crying in Wakanda. Like, scenes like that were so important in that
Not
show.
that WandaVision didn't have scenes like that.
No, it definitely
I mean, the scene where Wanda rolls up to the empty plot, and she just falls to her knees, you know. There's a lot of crazy stuff in that show too. It's all, you're right. Those shows, the 4 of them are all very, very, very close in you know, content and quality, I think.
No, I agree. If I were to rank them, I'd probably put Loki 1, probably a couple spaces. I just think Loki is the most cohesive. I know WandaVision was the most ambitious, but Loki was the most ambitious in the way that it was a setup I did not expect. I didn't think they were going to do. I thought it was going to be much more contained. And, like, that was kind of the nexus into this new phase. Like, in terms of this multiversal trilogy that it's called, like, that really was part 1 of the multiversal trilogy. So we had Loki, and then I would probably say Falcon and the Winter Soldier is second for me. Again, action, like, overall as a full action piece, it really felt like on par with some of the Marvel movies, but even a little better in terms of editing. And then, I mean, just the reveal of John Walker, I think, was very clear. Again, same thing with Daniel Bruhl's character, Zemo, same thing. Just very clear, paid off. I think all of them paid off well. And I really like John Walker's slip in that show. It's just those little moments of the show, like when he's running into the warehouse and he's yelling at himself in the warehouse after Lamar dies. Like, moments like that are so important in that show. Like, even the conversation he had with Lamar, Lamar tells him, like, it's just an extension of yourself. Like, you're a war hero. It's like...
The court-martial scene was really
right,
great.
Yeah, he's like, I understand your mandates. Like, this is what I was bred to do. So, moments like that really good. I mean, even with the message of Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. And then,
shout out Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, did an amazing job, and I can't wait to see more of him. And I guess I'd put WandaVision third again. Extremely ambitious. You know what my favorite episodes in them? I think it's 5 through 8, I think, are some of my favorite. I know it's not the era pieces, but I started loving when they really started diving into her origin and Agatha's origin, especially when the Scarlet Witch descended upon Wanda when they were testing. That's one of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU. It's really, Elizabeth Olsen is
she's so good.
Yeah, she's really evolved from Age of Ultron to this. So that, and then Hawkeye's probably last, but not a bad last. It's like the best last that you can have. Just an extremely fun show. The addition of Kate Bishop to the MCU is just a stroke of genius, and it's the most I've liked Jeremy Renner in his run as Hawkeye.
Me too. Yeah, totally agree. So, taking a break from Marvel for a little while till May.
Yeah, I might run back to Star Wars movies if that's the case, because it's probably the best time to. I feel like I'm all marveled out. Like I said, I'm in my Spider-Man No Way Home depression era. If it's post the movie, post Hawkeye, it's post Eternals, because like we said earlier, I feel like you're really big on character, which I still am, but I'm really big on world building. I think that's probably why Loki was my favorite show, and that's why I like the Eternals a lot more than other people do. It's just that big world. So like I'm pooped.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year for Marvel. They released 4 movies. 4 movies,
yeah.
They released
5 TV shows.
5 TV shows, counting What If. So a lot of Marvel content to come.
Yeah.
So they're taking a little hiatus, and we are also taking a hiatus from Marvel content for a little while. Because next week we're going to talk about The Matrix.
Yes. Yeah, I was campaigning for a Daredevil retrospective, but it's coming
eventually. Yeah, we'll get there.
To start the year off with Matrix is something.
Yeah,
we're really into Matrix right now, so I guess it does make sense.
Yeah, so that's gonna do it for us. You can follow us on Twitter at Project INF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook, like and share episodes right from there. It's usually when they first go up. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
Yep, and that's pretty much it.
What you been doing?
What have I been doing?
What's Rob been up to?
What have I been doing? Nothing really. I've usually just been real tired after work.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yesterday, I had a nice film day yesterday. I saw Licorice Pizza, which, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, has probably been, if it's not a fandom movie, like my #1 most anticipated movie. I'm a massive Paul Thomas Anderson fan. He's probably my second favorite director of this new generation. He's in his 50s, but quote unquote new. The ones that aren't like 75 plus. So, he's really inspirational to me, and movie was phenomenal. I have some moral issues with the movie, which it's funny because I probably saw the two most controversial movies of this year in like a 5-hour span yesterday. So yeah, I went to the theater yesterday, saw Licorice Pizza. That felt good because I obviously, as you may have known through the episodes, I want to make movies. So cool, you can have these big Marvel movies, sure, but it's just so refreshing to get a movie like that. The enjoyment from the theater in that movie was so refreshing too, to not have that, like, I love the Spider-Man No Way Home reaction, but like genuine reactions of like normal stuff that can happen, and like it's just so refreshing to feel, because that's the mark of a good movie, of like it's not this like fandom movie that people are enjoying like that. So that was really nice. A lot of laughs, a lot of genuine laughs, and an amazing story. Again, I have some moral issues with that movie, which is the controversy from that movie, so I don't really want to dive into that, but in terms of the way he makes movies, it's just really inspiring for someone like myself, and just a really well-made movie. One of the best made movies of this year. And then I saw Don't Look Up late last night. It was about midnight. I was going to go to bed and I said, let me watch Don't Look Up. And again, one of the most I don't know why this one's as controversial. I think, again, for something like Don't Look Up, Licorice Pizza's different because it's like something that happens in the movie. But this one, it's Adam McKay. That's what he does. He did Vice, he did Big Short, and this is his bag. This is exactly what he does. This is probably the most realized out of the three of those, because Vice was like the very contained one, and Don't Look Up is like just letting everything go, like all your grievances and all your feelings go. And I mean, the biggest compliment I can give that movie is simply Leonardo DiCaprio. He's always captivating. I mean, he's with Meryl Streep, Jennifer Lawrence, Timothy Chalamet, Ron Perlman. I mean, he's with some of the greatest actors you can find now, but it's just, there's a reason why people are probably going to consider him like one of the top 5 greatest actors when it's said and done. It's because of this. He's just slightly better than everybody else, and you can feel it, because he probably wouldn't have done a movie like this because of the content and what he does in real life. That's the old, because I think I told you before we hopped on, at first I was like, why is Leo in this Netflix movie? Because even Jennifer Lawrence, I can understand doing it, but
well, she's kind of cooled off,
right? Yeah, but Leonardo DiCaprio, like he's like the golden boy. So like, why would he? But the content of this movie is why he made this movie, and his real world beliefs. So yeah, I thought it was a solid movie. There's been a lot of discourse and hate for it online, and a lot of love. It's like very two spectrums, which again is the entire point of the movie itself, which is kind of funny. So it's a very Just watch the movie and formulate your own opinion. It was a solid watch. Adam McKay did a pretty solid job, and again, Leo was just phenomenal in that movie. So, yeah, it's on Netflix, so go watch that.
I also, you know what I did? I ran back to Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, okay.
Ah, man, nice. They still hold up.
Yeah.
After all this time, they're 3 of the best fantasy films ever made.
Right. Return of the King is just, oof.
They're all great.
Yeah.
They're all great. They all hold up. Everything holds up. The action holds up. The music holds up. Even the CGI holds up. There's not a ton of CGI. A lot of it is practical, especially when it comes down to the costuming and stuff.
Right.
Everyone's great in it. Ian McKellen, we talked about earlier.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The great Christopher Lee.
Yeah. Viggo Mortensen.
Mortensen. I wish that guy's career would have went another way, because he's so good in Lord of the Rings movies. Orlando Bloom, and just great cast. So Sean Bean is in Fellowship of the Ring. Carl Urban is in the later films. It's a who's who when you look at the cast, top to bottom. But those movies still hold up. They're the gold standard as far as fantasy goes.
Right.
I don't think anyone who thinks that Game of Thrones came close or eclipsed it hasn't watched Lord of the Rings in quite a while, because I love Game of Thrones and I don't even think Game of Thrones is on par. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, next week we're going to talk about The Matrix.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun conversation. Yeah. As soon as I see it, I'll be a little more informed.
Yeah, so it will be our first episode of the new year, and I just wanted to take this time to say an abundant and just a very gigantic thank you to everybody. What a roller coaster this. It's been 23 weeks of this. insane to think about.
Yeah.
What was that? Almost 5 or 6 months almost?
August, yeah.
Yeah.
August, yeah.
So, yeah, almost been 6 months of this, and next year it's just foot on the gas and just more content out to you guys and building this project, just building this infinite universe.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
It'll be 2022 the next time we link up for one of these.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Oh, yeah. So everybody stay safe.
Stay safe.
Happy.
Yeah. Stay, as safe as you can in these times.
Yes. So as my tagline from before, read more, write more, watch more, live more.
The kingpin of the podcast, everybody.
It's not where I thought you were going, but I guess I'll take it.
Yeah. So next week, 2022, and we're talking about The Matrix.
Yes.
Go figure.
Yeah, we're going to party like it's 2002.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.